Okay, to find the average number of televisions per household, let's assume that Townville has exactly 100 households. So the average number of televisions per household will equal the total number of televisions in all of Townville divided by 100, the number of households in Townville. Now, to find the total number of televisions in all of Townville, we went into a problem when we examined this portion of our table. This tells us that 12 of the households have 5 or more televisions in them. So each of these households could have exactly 5 televisions, or they could have more. They could have 6, 7, 100, or even 1 trillion televisions. As such, we cannot determine the total number of televisions in all of Townville, which means we cannot determine the average number of televisions per household. As such, the answer must be A. Alright, we can solve this question using ratios, where we compare the number of households with a certain number of televisions to the percent of households that have the same number of televisions. So the question tells us that the total number of households with exactly 2 televisions is equal to K, and the table tells us that the percent of households that have exactly 2 televisions is equal to 24. So this ratio will be equal to the ratio of the number of households with exactly 4 televisions, which we don't know yet, so we'll place a question mark here, compared to the percent of households that have exactly 4 televisions, which is equal to 20. We can now solve this question for our question mark. First, we'll cross multiply, and now we'll divide both sides by 24. Finally, we can simplify the fraction on the right-hand side to give us 5k over 6. So our answer must be D. Okay, to find the median here, let's say that Townville has exactly 100 households. We'll then list the number of televisions per household in ascending order, at which point we'll want to find the middlemost value. Now, since we'll be listing 100 numbers, and since 100 is even, the median will be equal to the average of the 2 middlemost numbers. Now, if we have 100 numbers, our 2 middlemost numbers will be the 50th number and the 51st number. So our median will equal the sum of the 50th and 51st numbers divided by 2. Now let's begin. We're told that 16% of the households have 0 televisions. In other words, 16 households have 0 televisions. So we'll first list the number of houses with 0 televisions. Next, we're told that 8% of the households have 1 television. So that means 8 households have 1 television. So we'll list 8 ones. Now at this point, we've listed 24 numbers. We're also told that 24% of the households have 2 televisions. In other words, 24 houses have 2 televisions. And now we've listed 48 numbers. And next we're told 20% of the households have 3 televisions. In other words, 20 households have 3 televisions. So we'll list our 23s here. And at this point, we can see that number 50 and number 51 are both equal to 3. So we'll plug this into our little formula here, and we see that our median equals 3, in which case our answer is E.
A developer proposes converting a gigantic old warehouse complex into apartments. Proposed new building would add 258 economy apartments, 200 regular apartments, and 50 luxury apartments. If these apartments are added, then apartments with an area from 750 to 1,000 square feet will constitute what percent of the total number of apartments downtown? So, right now, what we have is 23%. So let's approximate. That's close to 25%. And 25% or a quarter of 8,000 apartments. It's about 2,000 apartments right now. What we're adding to those is, of course, these apartments with the area 925 square feet. That's in that range. So we're adding 200 apartments to that range. So that means that we will have something along the lines of 220 apartments after these apartments are added. Well, how many are we adding total? We're adding 250 plus 200 plus 50. We're adding 500. So it means that the total is going from 800 to about 8,500. So now the question is, 2200 is approximately what percent of 8500? Well, again, it's very close to being a quarter of it. Of course, exactly 4 times 22 is 88, so 85 is very close. It's very close to being a quarter, so we expect an answer that is still very close to 25%. And in fact, the only answer that is in that ballpark at all is answer choice B, and this is the correct answer. The median area falls into what group? One way to think about the median is the middle of a list, but especially when you have a long list and lots of members, a better way to think about the median is the 50th percentile. That is to say 50% of the population is above it and 50% of the population is below it. So when we have groups of percents like this, we want to see how far up we'd have to go till we got to 50%. So for example, if we add these 3 groups, we get up to 46%. So that's not quite enough, and so that indicates we'd need to get up a little bit higher, which would be into this region, the 1000 to 1250 range. And just to double check, if we went from the other side, if we add these up, we get 28%, which is nowhere near 50%, but then if we go to the next group and include the 26, we get more than 50%. So in other words, approaching from either side, once we add that 26%, we are above 50%. That is the sure indication that somewhere within that 26% is the 50% mark, the median. So the median is the 1000 to 1250 group, answer choice C. What is the total number of apartments between 500 and 1,000 square feet? So we look at those 2 regions, and those add up to 41%. So this is 41% of what? It's 41% of the total number of apartments. Now you might be tempted to jump to the calculator right here, but let's do some approximations. We know that 10% would be 800. So multiply that by 4, so 40% would have to be 3,200. And so what that means is that 41% would be something just above 3,200. Well, the only thing that could even be close to that is answer choice D, and that is the correct answer.